Morning, Grant from Penguin Motors here. As you can see, leading on this Scarab Blue Rover P6 3500S. So, why am I leaning on it? Well, the vehicle's come here for a 5-speed gearbox swap, but also the owners asked me to kind of look over the engine, give it an assessment, and do whatever we think needs doing. So, 5 litres and quadruple Webers maybe? No, seriously, not that far. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to open it up. I've never driven this car before, so we're going to fire it up, see what it starts like, let it warm up for a bit, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a run around the estate, and then I'm going to go on and do a compression and cylinder leakage test, and maybe lift the valve covers and whatever else we can do to get an idea on the engine's health without actually taking it to bits. Well, it's quite nice in here. Right, so here goes. I've never even heard this run, so on this 8-degree cool morning, it'll be interesting to see what she fires up like. So, bit of choke. We've got an electric fuel pump. You can hear that ticking away. Ooh. Oil pressure's now alive. First thing to note is that exhaust sounds quite fruity, but it's running off choke just about. I say it's quite cold. I'm going to let it warm up for a little bit, and then we can go for a little jolly. What can I tell you about our little drive? Well, sorry I didn't include much pictures of like outward view through the screen, but I was a bit limited with the IT, and to be honest, we are at work. We're on a semi-private industrial estate. It's private land, but it is open to the public, so I've got to be a bit careful about driving around here. Anyway, so what can I tell you? Well, when I started the Rover up, that's the first time it's been started in a fortnight. Started lovely, sounds gorgeous. Revs up quite freely. Yeah, it drives all right. It's not fast. On the other hand, it's not the slowest I've driven by a long way. The engine's quite sweet, but it gets to about 3,500 RPM, and it really doesn't want to go any more than that. And yeah, it pulls reasonably well at low RPM, 2,000 odd RPM, third, fourth gear. It will accelerate, but not a lot. What's up with it? Probably nothing massive, probably general wear and tear and a stretched timing chain. But I don't know till I look inside. So let's have a little poke around inside it and see what we get. Like I say, I'll probably do a compression test first, then the cylinder leakage test, maybe pull the valve covers, and then, yeah, go from there. So what have we got under here? Well, we've got electronic ignition, we've got illumination, which is always a good thing.
We've got HI 44s, so the latest swinging needle carbs. We've got a expansion bottle for the cooling system, which I think is a really good idea because that means you can run the radiator full to the brim, and then the overflow bottle will take care of the expansion. So that aside, that all looks pretty good and normal in here. Air filters are clean. So don't fit very well, but air filters are cleanish. But one thing we definitely notice with these is that, well, this one won't filter the air very well because it's all gappy where it's broke up. But they're a bit too small. SD1 filters are longer, and if you can fit them in the airbox, that's an improvement. As is a whole SD1 airbox. We'll see. Don't know what the owner wants to do with this yet. He did talk about a 4-barrel, so we might end up with a completely different intake system. We'll see. I've decided what I'm going to do is remove the valve covers first, because it makes it easier to identify which cylinder's on the compression stroke when we come to do our leakage test. But also, if I take the valve covers off, we can fire it up, the covers off, and look at the push rods, see if the push rods are rotating. Right, so moving us in closer, we've got fairly typical dirty-ish gungy mess. Doesn't show up very well on the camera, but yeah, it's not been recently to bits looking at this top end. Right, hopefully I can hold the camera still enough so you can see it. That push rod is clearly rotating nicely, as is that one. That one's not, and neither's that one there. So if they're not rotating, that's a sure sign we've got warm cam loads. Looking at the valves, we have movement on all of them, although to be honest, number 8 exhaust valve doesn't appear to be moving a long way. Same this side. That push rod's rotating, so's that one. Not sure about that one. Right, so I pulled the spark plugs and here we are. Now on the face of it, most of them look to be running pretty lean. And to be honest, yeah, definitely that one. That one there. So on the face of it, most of them look to be running pretty lean. But they're also the wrong plugs. This engine should have short reach plugs in it. So the whole of that tip is well and truly in the middle of the combustion chamber. Long. Right, compression test. I do have a pedal depressor on to hold the throttle pedal wide open. But to be honest, unlike most of the internet will tell you, it doesn't have a massive effect. It has an effect, but it's not massive. And if you're looking for just a difference between the cylinders, then, you know, provided you're doing them all the same, the comparison's valid. And if you do a compression test, you've only got 100 PSI on a closed throttle, I guarantee you won't open the throttle, end up with 175. So yes, full throttle, not full throttle, it will make a difference, as will a warmed up or a cold engine, but the differences aren't dramatic. 170. That one's quite good. So there's the compression test.
There's the numbers. They're actually all pretty even. We've got a worst of 145 and a best of 170. So yeah, that's not too bad. Couple of points to note. Obviously, if there's a lot of oil in the ringlands, that can help raise it. And obviously, if the camshaft is badly worn, so the timing's reduced, that will actually raise the numbers. But overall, on the compression front, there's no disasters.
Right guys, sorry, I'm going to voice over this bit, but basically what we're going to do next is a cylinder leakage test, and what that involves is pumping compressed air into a cylinder with which you'd normally put at top dead center on a power stroke to ensure the valves are closed. In this instance, I've removed all the rockers, shafts, so all the valves are shut. But what we do, we pump compressed air in there and we look at percentage of the air leaking off. 10 to 15% is really low leakage and good. Anything 50% up is pretty poor. You know, when we get round to 80%, that's dire.
Over here we have a pretty good cylinder for an unrebuilt engine.
So, how did our cylinder leakage test fare? Well, interesting, more varied than a compression test, and arguably it's more valid than a compression test. We had a worst cylinder leakage of 60%, which is pretty grim, and we had a best of 15, which is actually really good. So there's a fair spread between the cylinders. We probably haven't got any burnt valves, and we probably haven't got any busted piston rings, but for sure we're going to have some wear. So, you know, from that aspect, the engine's going to have to come to bits. But what are the rocker shafts themselves? Well, usual story. If you pull the rockers back on the shaft, there's a huge amount of wear. And I don't know if you could hear that. That's my fingernail scratching across the ridges in the shaft. So rockers and shafts are junk, so they need to go in the bin. So the next time you see this, it'll probably be in even more pieces. And on that bombshell, you know what to do, guys. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll bring some more. Catch you on the flip side.